Come chill with me while I make this. And you're welcome to make it along with me. We're going to go by step instructions from the cutting out of the fabric all the way to the end. So let's get started. So where we're going to start first is with the pieces that we'll need. I am doing the pantsuit, so I will need all 7 pieces. So I'm going to cut the pieces and iron them. Okay, so we got all our pieces cut out. We got them ironed flat so that we don't have no creases in it. Now I want you to pay attention to your directions. On the next part, you should see where it says fabric layout. It's also going to talk about the directions of the fabric as well as whether it is a single thickness or cut on a fold, or any of that information you will see on this next page. Okay, so now we are over here where you see the pattern pieces laid out, and that is where I'm at right now. I have some of the pattern pieces laid out, number 1, 2, and 5. Okay. Okay, our pattern pieces are laid out on our fabric. The first thing we're going to need are some pins. And what we're going to do is we're going to pin the fabric and the pattern together. You can put your pins wherever you choose, all except for where you see darts, notches, or any type of marking. Okay, so go ahead and pin up everything. Okay, the next things you will need, since you have your pattern secured, is tracing paper and tracing wheel. And what we're going to do is I want you to pay attention to your particular size. Whatever your size is with this line, you're going to go ahead and you are going to put your tracing paper underneath your pattern, and you are going to go to your size and you're going to use your tracing wheel, and you're going to transfer that fold line onto your fabric. So go ahead and do yours. Now if you've done that, you should be able to see a line on your fabric. Now what you'll need is a marking pen, preferably one that's soluble. So where you see the round dot by your size, you're going to transfer that dot right at the end, just like where you see it on the pattern paper. You're going to transfer it onto your fabric. And you're going to go around your pattern pieces, and wherever you see a dot, you're going to do the same thing. Now on your pattern, you should see where it says some stitch lines, and you should have your tracing wheel and your tracing paper out again. And what you're going to do is put your tracing paper underneath of your pattern. Okay, you're going to go to your size and you are going to trace those stitching lines onto your fabric. Be sure to trace it correctly. Okay, and again, you should be able to see that on your fabric. So just go ahead and do that. Now we're over here at piece number 5, which is your sleeve. Okay, you're going to take your soluble marker and you are going to go find your size where you see these dots, And you are going to make dots on your fabric with your soluble marker wherever you see those circles. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. Okay, we're getting somewhere, I promise. Now you see where my finger is right here? That's called a notch, right? So you're going to go all the way around your pattern. And everywhere where you see these, you're going to make a little nip, just a little one. Just enough for when you pull the fabric apart, you can see where it is. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so the next section should be your glossary area. And this is going to tell you what stitch lengths to do, what type of stitches to do on particular areas of the garment. So I want you to read over that right quick, and then we're going to get started. Also, if you read over the first part of the information, you should know that we're stitching at 5/8 inch of seam allowance. Okay, now we're finally to the fun part. You're going to need either just one sewing machine with a thunderbolt zigzag stitch and a straight stitch, or you will need a straight stitch machine and your serger, whichever you desire to use. But first, I want you to read up here where it says note, and I want you to take note of what it says up there. Next, we're going to get started with our reinforcement stitch where I told you to draw that line at. That's the section right there. You're going to start doing your straight reinforcement stitch right here, 1 inch past this dot and 1 inch before this dot. You're going to do that on both pieces of. So you should be doing a reinforcement stitch on panel 1 and panel 4, I do believe. Then you can go ahead and take this step right here, which is to stitch together 1 and 2 and then press your seam. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are at our machines, and you should have piece 1 out. You remember I talked about that dot where you have to do the reinforcement stitch? You should have put a dot right there at the end of your line. So all I'm gonna do is go 1/2 inch in and 1 inch, 1 inch down to the dot. Now 1 inch past the dot. That's what I meant by the 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other. I'm going to do the same thing to the back piece, which is piece 3. Okay, so now we're at the point of stitching the front bodice together. So you should have 2 darts, one up here and one here. Okay, so now if you look at mine, first of all, remember that line that I drew with my tracing wheel and everything? That's there. There's that dot. I have the reinforced stitches here. Right here is where my dart is, and right here is where my dart is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my fabrics, I'm going to press them together with my fingers, and I am going to pin. Really, it's a better idea to start pinning from your notches. That way. Okay, I'm using my serger, and I am still stitching at 5/8 of a seam allowance. And I'll be doing the back the same way. So, okay, in your instructions, you should have seen where it said press your seams on the front piece towards the left. Okay, so what it's saying is to press the seam towards this smaller piece of fabric over here. Okay, so we're going to do that on both pieces, the front and the back. Okay, we're about to do our pressing, but I want to share with you something. Okay, so this is a Teflon sheet that you see me about to use. If you're just using a regular iron, I would suggest that you get you some of these Teflon sheets and put them down on your fabric. That way your fabric will not scorch, okay, or burn or melt. So you can find these Teflon sheets in my Amazon store, and the link will be in the bio area. And on your pressing, all you're gonna do is press the iron down onto the fabric and hit it with a little steam. That's what pressing is, okay? Ironing is moving the iron back and forth. Hey, so you doing okay? I'm glad. Okay, so now we are going to stitch the overarm. So that is going to be instruction number 3. Okay, that means you are going to match those dots up that you have. Remember, you're going to match those up, and you are going to pin down to the end of the sleeve, and then you're going to stitch from the end of the sleeve up to the dot and stop. Let's do that. So here we are, and we're going to still stitch this at 5/8 of a seam allowance. You're going to control your fabric by holding between your flat part of your hand and your thumb right now if you're at a serger, and to make sure that you have lined up your seams also. And we are at this dot, and at the dot we are going to stop our stitching. Okay, stop your stitching at the dot. Now at your dot, where you stopped at your dot right there, you're gonna just knit just a little bit, not much, just a little knit, just like that. That's all you need. And now you're gonna go press your seam towards the back of the shirt. Okay, we are at step number 4. So what you're going to do now is, you remember that line that we did with the tracing wheel and paper, you're going to leave that whole section alone. You're going to go to the side here. You're going to line up the front and the back, and you're going to stitch this down. Make sure that your notches are lining up with each other. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay. Here we go with our stitching. And press this towards the back. Okay, here we are now at step number 5. You remember that area of the shoulder where I had you to put that line at? What you're going to do now is you're going to fold down to that line. That was the whole purpose of putting that line there. And you're going to tack on this end and on this end. So let's go over that now. Okay, here is the line that I'm talking about that I had you to draw onto your fabric, right? So you're going to fold your fabric over onto that line. That line is a guide. That line is a guide for us to go by, okay? And then what you're going to do is, now I finished this end of the fabric. I put a finish on it with the serger. I just serged it. So you're folding this over onto the seam. Okay, we are at step number 6. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch the right side first with our sergers or sewing machines. Press that, and then you're going to stitch the left side, or yeah. Then you're going to stitch this side and press. So let's do that. Okay, we're getting to the finish line. We're at step 8 and with the sleeve. So you should have put some dots. 1 at the top of the sleeve and 2 right here. You should also have a notch here. You should have a 1 notch here and 2 notches here. 1 notch stands for the front of the garment. 2 notches is for the back. So that gives you direction on how to install the sleeve. That is going to be your thumb hole right there. So let's go ahead and stitch this down right quick. You're going to stitch from here to the dot, stop, start at the dot down here, and stitch the rest of the way down and press. Hey, you doing okay? Good. Okay, so where your thumb goes, right? We're going to fold that over. So before we can keep going, we're going to fold this over. We're going to take a needle and thread, or you can use your machine if you want to. And we're just going to tack that down. We're just going to tack those sidebars per se, or where the thumb goes. We're going to tack that down. And also you can use your serger, and you can go ahead and serge your cuffs at the very edge, just to give it a clean finish before we do our hem, okay? Alexa, pause. Okay, we're at step 10, and we're going to install the sleeve. So here's what we're going to do. Your sleeve should already be sewn together. Now, you should have a notch at the front, a notch at the front of your sleeve, and 2 notches at the back, okay? 1 at the front and 2 at the back. And you should also have this dot up here at the top, okay? So what we're going to do is turn the sleeve right side out. There's that notch, that 1 notch is small, but it's there, and 2 notches on the other side. So okay, so you're going to have the sleeve right side out. You're going to have your seam towards you. You're going to take your sleeve, you're going to stick it inside of the shirt. The shirt is from the wrong side to you, and the sleeve is on the right side. So it's right sides to right sides when you put the sleeve inside. You're going to line up your seams first. You're going to find your single notch. First line up your seam and pin. Then find your single notch on both pieces, on the sleeve and on the bodice, and pin, and then go back around to the double notches on each, the sleeve and okay, you should have pinned the sleeve on, and now we're going to go ahead and stitch it down. We're going to start near the seam, okay, so that we make sure the seam get put on there correctly. Gonna go ahead and the sleeve. Okay, so here's where we are with the top. I've given it a nice steam and press. Also, all I have to finish is hemming the bottom of the top and hemming the sleeves, and it is done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this so chill and sew, and I will see you on the next one. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe.